the planet floated in silence. From space, it looked like nothing more than a dead rock, turning slowly under a weak, fading sun. To the crew of the alien survey ship, it was supposed to be just another forgotten world. Their scanners showed ruins scattered across the surface, broken towers half buried under sand, and cities long turned to dust. No living creatures, no power signals, only silence. And yet the silence itself felt wrong. The alien captain, a tall figure with scales of dark blue, narrowed his eyes as the ship drifted closer. His crew worked around him, sending drones down into the atmosphere, scanning every corner. At first, the reports were normal. Abandoned structures, strange markings on walls, collapsed roads, metal frames rusted and eaten by time. But then came the signal. It was faint. It's almost too faint to notice. A slow pulse, buried deep below the surface. Not natural, not random. A heartbeat of something old. The crew shifted uneasily. The captain ordered a landing. Their ship broke through the clouds and touched down on cracked stone near the ruins of what had once been a massive city. The wind howled across empty streets, carrying dust that stung against their armor. The ruins looked as though a great war had torn them apart. Buildings split in two, giant holes blasted into the ground. Scorched marks on walls even after centuries. As the aliens stepped forward, their lights revealed words carved into broken stone written in a language few remembered. Their data archives identified it slowly. It was human writing. The word burned across one collapsed wall. Sanctuary. But there was nothing safe about this place. One of the crew pressed his clawed hand against a heavy metal door half buried in rubble. The scanners picked up faint energy below. Against the captain's better judgment, they forced the door open. It groaned as ancient air escaped in a hiss, carrying a smell of rust and dust. The path led down into darkness. Their lights flickered. Against long tunnels made of steel, walls lined with dead machines, some had the shape of weapons, others of sleeping chambers. Everything was covered in dust, yet everything seemed waiting. The pulse on their scanner grew stronger the deeper they went. A rhythm, a slow thud. At last they reached a vast underground chamber. The ceiling rose high above, lined with cables thicker than trees. In the center stood massive cylinders, some shattered, some still whole. Glass windows revealed shadows inside. Some were empty, some still held forms, human forms. Frozen in sleep, the crew stared in silence. They'd been told humans were gone, wiped out long ago in forgotten wars, yet here they were, not gone, but sleeping. The aliens spoke nervously among themselves. Should they destroy them before they woke, or take them back to study? The captain moved closer to one of the chambers. He wiped dust from the glass, and their eyes closed, chest still, but alive lay a human soldier. The armor it wore was old but powerful, unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Even in sleep, the human's face was hard, as if ready for battle. Suddenly, the machines around them clicked. A spark lit. A low hum echoed through the chamber. The aliens froze. The heartbeat they had followed was no longer faint. They had fendered now, shaking the floor. Unauthorized presence detected. A voice boomed from the walls. It was mechanical, cold, and ancient. The walls themselves seemed alive, glowing faintly as power returned to them after centuries of silence. Red lights blinked to life. Warning sirens wailed, echoing down the tunnels. The aliens panicked. Some reached for their weapons, but the captain raised his hand. Too late, the chamber hissed as one of the cylinders cracked open. Mist poured out. The glass slid aside with a long groan. The human inside drew its first breath in centuries. Its eyes snapped open bright, sharp, alive. The crew stumbled back in fear. The human turned its head slowly, locking eyes with the captain. There was no weakness in that gaze, no confusion, only recognition. The silence of the planet was broken now. The ruins were no longer dead. Something had been waiting here all this. Time hidden beneath dust and stone, something the galaxy had forgotten. The aliens had come searching for answers, for relics, for treasure, But what they had found was not treasure. It was not safety. It was not peace. They had found the last breath of humanity, still burning in the dark. And now it was awake. The tunnels shook as the chamber's alarms roared. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain, and the aliens stumbled backward, weapons raised but hands trembling. The humans stepped forward out of the mist, each movement slow and heavy, as if waking from a long dream. His breath echoed in the silence, and the faint glow of the chamber lights made his figure look larger than life. The alien captain felt his throat tighten. The reports had said humans were gone, erased by wars too long ago to matter. But this one stood alive, scarred armor clinging to his body like the shell of some predator. His eyes scanned the room, cold and sharp, fixing on every alien one by one. He spoke no words. He didn't need to. The weight of his presence pressed down on them harder than any weapon. Then the machines around them moved again. More cylinders hissed. A dozen red lights blinked alive. The heartbeat sound grew louder, a rhythm that felt almost like drums of war echoing through the tunnels. The aliens shouted in panic, some aiming weapons at the pods. But the captain raised his claw, holding them back. We knew instinctively that firing would be a mistake. A mechanical voice filled the chamber once more. Defense system restored. Human life detected. Awakening protocol engaged. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The word defense sent a cold shiver through them. The captain finally spoke, his voice low, trying to mask his fear. Came as explorers? We mean no harm. The human turned to him, tilting his head as if studying prey. Then, slowly, he raised his hand and pressed it against the chamber wall. Instantly, light spread across the metal, and the whole underground facility hummed with power. What had been dead for centuries was alive again. Screens flickered, showing maps, codes, data none of the aliens could understand. Another pod cracked. Open. This time, the sound was louder, faster. Another human emerged, then another. Their bodies were thin but strong, muscles hardened by whatever war they had once fought. Their eyes burned with the same fire, the fire of survivors. One of the alien soldiers could not take it anymore. He shouted and fired his plasma weapon. The blast struck the nearest human square in the chest. Smoke and light filled the air. For a moment, the crew thought it was over. But when the smoke cleared, the humans still stood. The armor was scorched, smoking but unbroken. The man stepped forward, unshaken, his eyes never blinking. The alien soldier dropped his weapon in fear. His voice shook as he whispered, "Impossible." The captain knew now. These were no relics. They were no weak survivors.
Ow.
These were warriors who had been left here for a reason. And the reason was becoming clearer with every heartbeat that shook the ground. The chamber's doors slammed shut behind them, sealing the aliens inside. The voice of the ancient system thundered again, awakening complete. Defense priority. Eliminate intruders. The floor trembled. From the walls, old machines unfolded, their weapons clicking into place. Drones, the size of predators, came alive, hovering with glowing red eyes. The humans did not attack yet. They stood in silence, watching as the machines surrounded the aliens. It was as if they were letting the system judge first. The captain's breathing grew heavy. His claws tightened around his weapon. He knew they had awoken something far greater than their ship could handle. This was not just a forgotten ruin. It was a trap, a cage built to hold something the galaxy had wanted buried. The humans were stirring now, stretching, awakening fully. Their faces showed no fear, only grim purpose. The captain finally understood. This planet was never abandoned. It was hidden. Hidden because inside it was humanity's last soldiers, still alive, still waiting, and now unleashed. The first human finally spoke. His voice was deep, rough, but steady, carried across the chamber like thunder. You should not have come here. And with that, the forgotten world began to wake in full. The tunnels were no longer silent. Sirens echoed through the buried city, red lights pulsing against the steel walls. The alien crew stood trapped between the sleeping pods and the awakened soldiers, their weapons shaking in nervous hands. The humans did not rush them. They did not speak again. They only watched with cold eyes, as if measuring the intruders, deciding if they were worth killing now or later. The captain's mind raced. He knew his crew could not win here. The drones floating above their heads hummed with ancient power, weapons far beyond their understanding. The captain's fear was not only for his crew, it was for the galaxy. If these humans truly survived, if more of them awoke, the balance of every empire could shatter. The silence broke when another pod opened. Steam hissed into the air. The glass slid away, and a tall soldier stepped forward. His chest rose sharply as he took his first breath in centuries. His face was older, his hair streaked with silver, but his body moved with the strength of a predator. His armor was marked with scars, each one a story of war. His hand clenched into a fist as if ready to strike down anything in front of him. Then another pod cracked, and another. One by one, the dead city came alive again. Men and women, soldiers all, emerging from their long sleep. Some stumbled at first, but when their eyes opened, they burned with the same fire. The fire of people who had refused to die. The alien soldiers began to panic. Their voices rose, their claws tightening on weapons, but none dared fire again. They had seen already what these beings could endure. To fight them here, surrounded by their own machines, was suicide. The older human looked at the others who had awoken. He spoke in their old tongue, words the aliens could not understand. Ow. But the sound of his voice made the chamber tremble. The other humans nodded, their expressions grim, as if they had already remembered what needed to be done. The captain's translator tried to catch fragments of their language. One word came clear. War. The aliens stiffened. War. That was the word humanity had been known for across history. A word that once shook empires. A word the galaxy thought had been erased when humans disappeared. The captain tried to speak. His voice cracked under the weight of the moment. We are explorers. We did not come to fight. The older human turned his head slowly, eyes narrowing at the alien leader. Then he stepped closer. His boots struck the steel floor like hammers, each step echoing in the crew's bones. He stopped only a breath away, staring into the captain's eyes. For the first time, he spoke words the translator could grasp. You should not have opened the doors. The captain's scales went cold. The humans spread out through the chamber. Some touched the old machines and power rushed back into them, as if the technology itself had been waiting for its masters to return. Defense drones lowered their weapons at once, turning instead to aim at the aliens. The message was clear. This world belonged to humans still. One alien soldier finally broke. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, shaking his head. Cannot fight them. We should not be here, he cried. The captain wanted to strike him for weakness, but deep inside, he knew the soldier was right. The older human raised his arm. He pointed toward a massive sealed gate at the end of the chamber. With a heavy groan, the metal doors slid open, revealing a deeper passage. Inside were rows of pods stretching far into the distance, thousands of them stacked floor upon floor. Each one held a human soldier, sleeping, waiting. The alien crew gasped, their knees weakened. This was not a small group. This was not a handful of survivors. This was an army. The captain understood too late. This planet had not been forgotten. It had been locked away. Prison, a tomb, a warning. And now, because of them, it was waking. The older human looked back at the aliens once more. His voice was low but sharp, a blade cutting through the air. You woke us. Now you must live with what follows. The captain's heart sank. He knew, in that instant, what they had done. They had not discovered a treasure. They had unleashed a storm, and storms do not forgive. The alien crew followed the humans deeper into the buried city. Their steps echoed in long steel corridors, walls glowing faintly with power that had slept for centuries. The deeper they went, the more the air felt heavy, charged with something ancient and alive. The captain's every instinct screamed to turn back, to escape, but the doors behind them had sealed tight. There was no way out except forward. The humans moved with purpose. They were not confused, not weak from their long sleep. Each step was steady, their eyes sharp, their movements coordinated. It was as if they had been waiting only for this moment. Their voices rose softly in their own tongue, words the aliens could not fully understand. Yet the sound carried weight, as though memory itself was flowing back into them. They came at last to a chamber larger than any before. Its walls were covered with screens and symbols, machines arranged in rows like soldiers standing at attention. At the center stood a towering console. The older human stepped forward and placed his hand upon it. The chamber lit up instantly. Holograms flickering into the air maps of stars, fleets of ships, battles frozen in time. The aliens stared, their eyes wide. They were looking at history, human history. The humans stood silently as the images played. Vast wars stretched across the galaxy. Human fleets burning against alien armadas. Worlds reduced to ash. The records showed chaos, destruction, and defiance. The humans had not been erased quietly. They had fought to the very end. The captain felt a chill in his bones as the truth unfolded. Humanity had not simply vanished. They had hidden themselves here, burying their survivors deep in the heart of this world. Not for safety, not for peace, but to wait. One hologram shifted, showing a message recorded long ago. A human commander, scarred and weary, appeared. His voice filled the chamber, translated crudely into alien speech. If you are hearing this, then our time is ended, or it is only sleeping. We fought them all, every empire, every conqueror. They feared us, and they were right too.
Yes.
But war has no end, so we chose silence. We chose to bury ourselves until the galaxy forgot. The image flickered, the man's eyes burning with grim certainty. If you awaken us, it will not be by accident. If you awaken us, then the galaxy is in need of a reminder. Remember this: we are humanity, and we do not die quietly. The message ended, leaving silence heavier than steel. The alien soldiers shifted uneasily. One whispered, "They chose this." They chose to sleep until someone opened their cage. The captain's claws curled tightly. He felt trapped, caught in the center of a storm he could not stop. The humans were not merely survivors. They were living memories of war, waiting to rise again. The older human lowered his hand from the console. His voice rumbled low, like thunder rolling across the earth. We remember now. We remember the war. We remember why we were hidden. His eyes turned to the aliens, and we remember what must be done. The machines around them stirred. Weapons long sealed came alive, glowing with a light too old and too terrible. Drones lined the chamber walls, their red eyes burning. The floor shook as something massive began to move beneath the city, metal grinding against metal. The alien crew stepped back in terror. The captain tried to speak, but no words came. Deep inside, he knew the truth. The galaxy had feared humanity for a reason. The ruins were not ruins at all. They were a warning that no one had obeyed. Now the memory of war had returned, and the humans were ready to make the galaxy remember too. The ground trembled as the humans led the aliens deeper into the heart of the buried city. The air grew hotter, heavy with the scent of rust and something sharper like burned metal.
Oh.
Sparks flickered across the walls as dormant machines roared back to life. Pipes hissed with steam, and every shadow seemed to breathe. The captain's chest tightened with each step. His crew followed reluctantly, their eyes darting at every sound, claws trembling on their weapons. None dared fire. At last they reached another chamber. This one was unlike the others. Its walls were made of thick black metal, reinforced and sealed with heavy locks. Strange markings were carved across the surface, symbols of warning in the human tongue. The translator struggled to read them, but one word came clear: forbidden. The older human stepped forward. His hand pressed against the wall, and the locks began to glow red. The sound of gears grinding filled the air. The gate shuddered, then split open with a deep groan. A wave of hot air rushed out, carrying the smell of oil and fire. Inside lay rows of machines, giant war engines, silent but whole, cannons the size of towers, armored vehicles lined in endless rows, weapons glowing faintly as if still alive after all these centuries. The aliens froze, their minds struggling to believe what they saw. It was not a storage chamber. It was an arsenal. The older human's eyes narrowed as he walked among the machines. His hand brushed the cold metal of a cannon, and the weapon sparked with sudden life. Lights flickered across its surface, and the ground shook as ancient systems awakened. The arsenal had been waiting, locked away until its masters returned. One of the alien soldiers whispered, his voice cracking. Why? Why would they bury this here? Why would they leave so much death hidden? The captain already knew the answer. His stomach turned as he spoke softly, because even they feared what they created. The humans moved with growing confidence. Now, their steps heavy with purpose. Their voices rose again in their forgotten language, echoing through the chamber. They remembered. They remembered how to fight, how to kill, how to unleash the weapons they had once sworn never to use again. Arsenal roared awake. One by one, war machines powered up, engines growling, weapons charging with blinding light. The sound shook the tunnels, a storm of power building beneath the planet's crust. The aliens staggered back. Some raised their weapons, though their hands shook too badly to aim. We must stop them, one cried. If these things leave this world, nothing in the galaxy will stand against them. The captain's heart pounded. He wanted to give the order, wanted to fight. But deep inside, he knew it was hopeless. These humans were not weak survivors. They were warriors who had built nightmares out of steel and fire ant, then buried them because even they could not trust themselves. The older human finally turned to face the aliens. His expression was hard, unyielding. You should not have opened this place, he said. We sealed it for a reason. The floor rumbled. Somewhere deep below, a larger engine roared to life, louder than thunder. The walls shook. Dust rained. Down from above, the captain's scales grew cold. He realized then what was happening. The arsenal was not just waking, it was preparing to rise. And when it did, the galaxy would remember why it had once feared humanity more than anything else. Planet shook as the arsenal came alive. From beneath the surface, engines rumbled like the growl of buried beasts. Ancient machines awakening after centuries of silence. Dust poured from cracks in the ceiling, and red lights burned brighter across the tunnels. The air itself felt heavier, thick with heat and power. The aliens stumbled backward as the sound grew louder. Their weapons felt useless in their claws. No matter how advanced their rifles were, they looked like toys compared to the machines that rose before them. Warwalkers unfolded from their cradles, tall as towers, their limbs grinding as they stretched. For the first time in ages, tanks rolled forward on treads, scarred with old battles, their cannons glowing with a dangerous light. Drones filled the air, a swarm of metal wings humming like an angry hive. And in the middle of it all stood the humans. They moved with purpose, their voices steady, commanding the machines with nothing more than touch and memory. Their hands danced across glowing panels, their eyes sharp and unblinking. Even though they had been asleep for centuries, it was as if no time had passed. Their bodies were stronger than they had any right to be, and their will was unbroken. The alien captain could only stare. The galaxy had spoken of humans as a story, a tale of death and violence long erased. And yet here they were, stronger than the legends, refusing to die even after being buried in the dark. One of the alien soldiers whispered in panic, "They are too few. They cannot stand against an empire." But as he spoke, the humans' machines roared to life in unison. A single command, silent and unseen, passed through them all. The ground split open as hidden doors tore wide, revealing the sky above. Light spilled down into the buried city for the first time in centuries. The humans lifted their faces to the sun, eyes narrowing against its glare. For so long they had slept in shadow, but now they stood again in the light. Upward, climbing through the broken surface. their shadows stretching across the dead world. The aliens followed, helpless, watching the forgotten army rise. Above the planet, orbiting ships detected the surge of energy. Fleets from distant systems turned their scanners toward the dead world. Reports spread fast. What had once been dismissed as a ruin now blazed with power, brighter than anything seen in generations. Whispers moved across the stars, whispers of a name none had dared speak aloud in centuries. Humans, the captain's claws, trembled as he understood the scale of what was happening. This was not just the return of a lost species. This was a rebirth, a rise. And once humanity rose, they would not stop. The older human, the one who had led the awakening, looked across the ruined horizon. His voice was low, but carried like thunder. We were forgotten, but we are not broken. The galaxy buried us, but the galaxy will remember. The soldiers behind him stood straighter, their weapons hummed, their armor glowing faintly with the light of reawakened systems. The war machines formed lines, standing ready, their cannons aimed at the sky. The aliens could only watch. Fear pressed against their hearts like a weight of stone. They had unleashed something they could not control, something no one could control. The forgotten had risen, and the galaxy would soon tremble. The sky above the planet burned red as the machines of war climbed from their hidden tombs. Dust storms swirled across the ruined cities, stirred by the march of ancient walkers. The ground thundered with the weight of armored vehicles rolling. In formation, their cannons glowing like captured suns. Swarms of drones filled the air, blackening the horizon with the hum of metal wings. The aliens who had woken them stood frozen on the surface, their eyes wide with fear. None dared move. None dared speak. They had come seeking relics of the past. Instead, they had called an army back to life. The older human stood at the front of his people, his armor scarred and heavy, his gaze fixed on the sky. He raised one hand, and the machines obeyed. They moved into perfect lines, their weapons turning upward. Above, alien fleets had begun to gather, their ships circling like vultures, sensing prey. But they were not circling prey. They were circling predators. The humans said nothing. Their silence was more terrible than any roar of anger. Their eyes carried only certain certainty of what was to come. The alien captain stepped forward, his claws shaking. He tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. Finally, he forced the words out. You cannot do this. The galaxy has changed. Empires rule the stars. You will be crushed if you fight them. The older human turned his head slowly. Its expression did not change. His voice was calm, cold. We fought them before. We will fight them again. Empires burn. The captain's chest grew tight. His crew whispered behind him, begging to flee, to leave this cursed planet. But there was no escape. Their ship had already been seized by the human machines, locked down under watchful red eyes. Above, the first alien fleet moved closer. Their ships armed themselves, weapons glowing, confident they could erase this forgotten world with a single strike. They had no fear. They did not remember what it meant to fear humans. The humans gave them a reminder. From the surface, hidden cannons rose on pillars of steel. Energy built within their cores until the very air shook, when one instant, the sky tore open with blinding light. Beams of fire ripped upward, striking the lead warships before they could react. Metal shattered like glass. Explosions ripped across the heavens. Dozens of ships vanished in storms of flame. The alien crew dropped to their knees, their jaws open. In disbelief, they had seen battles before, but never this. Never so fast, never so final. The humans did not cheer. They did not gloat. They simply turned their weapons to the next fleet and prepared to fire again. Panic spread across the stars. Messages flew between empires, warnings shouted in fear. The dead were no longer dead. The forgotten had returned, one name no one wanted to hear was being spoken again, trembling on every channel. Humans, the alien captain, felt his scales grow cold. He knew the galaxy would not survive what was coming. The humans were not seeking peace. They were not begging for survival. They were taking back their place, and nothing would stop them. The older human lowered his hand, and the cannons went silent for a moment. His voice carried across the battlefield like iron. We remember. And now the galaxy will remember us. The reckoning had begun, beneath the surface of the forgotten planet. Deeper than the buried cities and even below the hidden arsenal, something else stirred. The humans had awakened, their war machines had risen, and the galaxy trembled under their return. But in the deepest vaults, beyond doors thicker than mountains, lay what even humanity had once feared. The aliens did not know of it. They only saw the humans reclaiming their world, commanding weapons that shattered fleets. To them, it was already the end of everything, but the humans knew more. Their silence, their grim faces, spoke of a truth older than any empire still. Standing in the stars, the older human stood before the captain, his eyes cold and steady. You have unleashed us. But in doing so, you have also broken the seals. You do not understand what you have woken. The captain swallowed hard, his scales trembling. What? What is it? The human did not answer. Instead he turned, leading his soldiers into a tunnel that stretched downward into blackness. Against his will, the captain and his crew followed, their fear dragging them step by step. The air grew hotter the deeper they went. Heavy with the stench of metal and ash, strange symbols lined the walls, warnings etched by human hands long ago. The translator caught only fragments. Containment. Danger. Do not release. Finally, they entered the lowest chamber. Like the others, it held no weapons, no machines. Only a single cage stood at the center, vast and terrible, built of alloys the aliens did not recognize. Its walls pulsed faintly, as though something alive pressed against them from the other side. The ground shuddered beneath their feet. The cage groaned. A low, thunderous sound echoed through the chamber, like the growl of a beast too massive to imagine. The aliens froze, their hearts hammering in their chests. The older human's voice was little more than a whisper. We buried it here because even we feared it, a weapon that could not be controlled. Not by us, not by anyone. We chose to sleep. Above it, guarding it with our silence, the captain's throat tightened. Then why? Why awaken it now? The human's eyes burned with grim fire, because the galaxy has forgotten why it must fear us. And sometimes, fear must be taught. Again, the cage cracked. Light bled through the seams, bright and terrible. The sound rose, not just a growl now, but a scream that rattled the bones of every living creature in the chamber. The aliens stumbled back, but the humans stood unmoving, their faces hard. The walls split apart. Something vast stirred within something. Neither fully machine nor fully flesh, something built from war and bound in chains of fire. Its eyes opened, burning like stars. The captain dropped to his knees, his mind breaking beneath the weight of what he saw. This was no weapon. This was not even a soldier. This was an ending forged by hands too desperate and too ruthless. The older human raised his voice, steady as stone. We called it the thing that should never wake. You forced our hand. Now it wakes. And it will march with us. Above, on the surface, the sky lit with fire as fleets massed to strike again. The humans gave the signal. The arsenal roared. And from the depths, the chained monster broke free, its roar tearing across the planet, shaking mountains, splitting. The earth, the aliens screamed. Their fear too great to hold, the humans did not scream. They only marched, and the galaxy, watching from afar, understood too late. The forgotten world was not only humanity's grave, it was their forge. The humans had returned, and they had not returned alone.